Kia ora Year 10. This short video is going to review 3 of the rules from Year 9 about how to find angles on lines and at points. The first rule we'll review is that angles on a line add up to 180 degrees. We write the shorthand for this as angles on line add to 180, right? So hardly any shorthand at all. If we look at this first problem, we've got a line and we're told one angle. So we know this one here, oops, this one is 40. We don't know this one. So the first thing we do is we write down an equation for the situation. So we have 40 degrees plus x is equal to 180 degrees. The next thing we do is write down the reason we can say that. Angles on line add to 180. We must give that reason. Now we solve the equation. X is equal to 180 take away 40, which is 140 degrees. Okay, on to the next rule. The next rule is that angles at a point add up to 360 degrees. So with the very messy diagram, you can see the big idea here is that if I start facing in this direction here and I turn all the way around, I will have gone 360 degrees, or one full revolution. Okay. The second picture here shows you an example where you might have lots of angles and you have to work out one, this one here, this x. So as before, we're going to have a shorthand way to say this, which will be angles at point, PT is fine, angles at a point add to 360 degrees. If we're asked to find the missing angle x, we write an equation. This time we write 110 plus 30 plus 50 plus 70 plus x equals 360 degrees. We collect up all those numbers that we know, so 110 plus 30, 140, 190 plus 70, we get 260 degrees plus x is equal to 360. We write down our reason. Angles at point add to 360. Right. Lastly, we solve that equation and we get x is equal to 100 degrees. Okay, there'll be some for you to practice after the next slide. The third rule is that vertically opposite angles are equal. So what do we mean by vertically opposite angles? Well, where we've got two lines and they intersect, this angle and this angle will be the same. This angle and this angle will be the same. We write this rule as vert op angles are equal. Okay, so here's an example, the easiest kind of example. 50 degrees here. What's x? So as before, we're going to write down x equals 50 degrees. So these are the easiest ones when they're in this form because we just give the missing angle straight away here. And our reason is vertically opposite angles are equal. Now often you'll have to use this rule combined with the other rules, so it won't always be as clear as just going straight to the answer. On the next slide there are some to practice. Okay, here are 3 to practice. We're going to label them 1, 2 and 3. I would like you to do these in your book showing full working, and I'll have answers coming on the next slide. So pause the video now and do those 3 problems. Okay, here's my first one. I've got x plus 110 degrees plus 50 degrees equals 180 degrees. I have to give my reason. Angles on line equal 180 degrees. So x plus 160 degrees is 180 degrees. X is equal to 20 degrees. Next one. Right, in this case, these are vertically opposite angles, so I can write down straight away A is equal to 90 degrees. Vertically opposite angles are equal. Remember from year 9 that this symbol means a right angle. Okay, on to the last one, which had slightly more working out to do. Right, the first thing to notice here is that I've got 3 missing angles, so I have to start with the first one that I can work out and set up a chain of reasoning. So the first thing we can say is that x is equal to 40 degrees because vertically opposite angles are equal. So that's that one done. The next thing we can see is that this straight line here means I can use my straight line rule. So I get z is equal to, well, we could do this one directly. Okay, so z is equal to 140 degrees because angles on a line add up to 180 degrees. Fuller working for that one would be to write this. 40 plus z equals 180. Okay, and then to go to z equals 140 degrees. Sometimes though, if it's really obvious, as long as you're giving your reason, this is fine. Just saying angles on a line are 180 and then z is 140. And then the last one, y is equal to 140 degrees because, again, vertically opposite angles are equal. Okay, so just going over that reasoning again. The first one that we find, put on a different coloured pen, here we find angle x first. Then we use the rule about angles on a line and we find angle z. We could have found angle y, wouldn't have mattered, using that line. But we used this line here. Okay, and so we said we know x, now we know z, and lastly we can work out y using vertically opposite angles. And when you get to more complicated problems, you'll often be using a chain of the reasons like this. Thank you very much for watching. Exercise 1804 in beta has more practice and the same number in your beta homework book.